All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the room and welcome to Project Vocal's 8th series of dialogue on the truth behind youth taking grassroots actions. So today's dialogue is in conjunction with iGEM 2021. Thank you so much for joining us here today. My name is Ashley and I'll be your host. So I am the head of the Environmental Task Force over at UNAM Youth, and I'm also a Project Vocal ambassador. So today's program is fueled by the Global Environment Facility Small Grants Program, GEF-SGP of the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and it is led by Ecoknights. So before I introduce our lineup of speakers today, I'd like to go through some housekeeping rules. So all questions during the Q&A session are to be sent via the chat box, and they will be addressed during the live Q&A later. And everyone who participates in this dialogue will receive an e-certificate for their participation. So now that we are done with some general housekeeping rules, let me introduce you to our first speaker for today. First, I'd like to introduce Admin Fatah to the virtual stage. Admin will be giving us a roughly 10-minute presentation. He's really passionate about youth empowerment, conservation, and diving, especially with sharks. Fun fact, I met Admin at an environmental camp back in 2017 called Borneo Eco Warriors. He was a co-organizer and I was just a participant, but I do recall Admin being all passionate about marine conservation. Admin is a co-founder of Green Sampurna and has been running environmental education and youth empowerment programs since 2012. He is currently the program manager for Reef Check Malaysia since 2016 and has worked with WWF Malaysia before. So now, let us put our virtual hands together and welcome Admin Fatah. The floor is yours, Admin.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Great to see you again in an environmental event. I was I think I was like when I received the invitation, I was like, I remember Ashley, but which programs? Because we do a lot of programs, and now I recall that Borneo Eco Warriors. So should I start sharing about Green Sampurna or how?
It's up to you, Admin. Share whatever you like. Tell us what you think we want to know.
Thank you so much. I'll be sharing some of our host disabled participants screen sharing. I'll be sharing about Green Sampurna later, particularly on the our current programs, which is empowering the vulnerable communities in Mabul Islands to drive climate actions on to support their climate change adaptations and mitigations. And some of our efforts in Sampurna as well, particularly the youth empowerment and raising awareness on marine conservation. Is it in a full screen, Ashley?
Yes, all good, Admin.
All right. So when I started Green Sampurna, I was like, I think 18 or 19 years old. So I'll be sharing some how we, started our organization. So basically, as you all know, Green Sampurna is a very beautiful place. It's also known as the hotspot for marine biodiversity. It's globally recognized because of its richness in terms of coral reefs, marine fishes, reptiles, and so many other important marine habitats. And also, it's famous for those avid scuba diver, and we are one of the famous diving destinations in Malaysia. But at the same time, we are also the center of marine adversity. So when I said adversity, meanings whatever we known for our marine biodiversity, we're also known in destructing it, in destroying it. So we have coral reefs, but we also making headlines in newspaper for fish bombings. We have beautiful islands, but it's also polluted. We also have nesting sea turtles in Sampurna, but we are also known for egg poaching and turtle poaching, and so many other environmental issues. So it's very unfortunate to hear that although like we are the center of marine biodiversity, but Sampurna is also the center of adversity. So when we realized this with my friends, the youth that participate in awareness camp with WWF, so we realized that we need to do something. People, the 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 people in Sampona, they are not aware that all these environmental issues. So we need to do more, so in order so that people aware, so that they can do to protect all this heritage. So that's how we started Green Sampona, actually. When I went snorkeling in one of the famous island called Sibuan, so we see beautiful coral reefs, and then the marine biologists in WWF took us to another site which is totally destroyed by fish bombing. So it's like devastated. We were really shocked that these things happens in our waters. If we let this happening for years, we will eventually run out of all these marine resources and will be left nothing. So I always tell people, like, what would be Sampurna without its coral reefs? So then we started to establish Green Sampurna in 2012, and we tried to provide a platform for the young people to join marine conservation programs. We engaged with different partners, stakeholders, and coastal communities, so that we can, deliver awareness programs, so that we can deliver empowerment program, leadership programs on environmental related issues, so that, when people aware, they can start, discussing or spreading the messages, like the need of protecting the reefs, the needs of protecting our sea turtles, the need of protecting our marine resources, because our environments is also our livelihood, and especially in Sampona, because we rely a lot on it. So we work closely with schools, targeting the school children, promoting all these marine environments, marine conservation programs. But most of the time we work with coastal communities, because they are the one who live in the islands, but they also don't really know about the biology, the needs of protecting, what happened if reefs destroyed, what happened if we lost all these marine reptiles. So it's very important to give them knowledge and also capacity building on how to protect their marine environment. Our recent programs that we conducted annually is the Community Environmental Leadership Camp, focusing on the youth. So it's a kind of boot camp where we provide knowledge, we provide training in leadership, we also provide training in project management. I hope that these youth that coming from different coastal areas in Sabah would eventually come up with community projects that they want to address in their islands or in their areas, and eventually creating more bigger impacts and recruiting more communities to drive the solutions together. Our current climate actions program is actually in Mabul, which is started last year. So all this while, when Green Sampona was founded, we really focused on fish bombing campaign. We want to stop fish bombing. But over the time, we realized that we've been talking a lot about protecting turtles, protecting all these marine environments, and so on. But over this, we realized that there's other issues that community are facing, which is the climate change impact. And when we do a lot of programs in Mabul, we started programs in Mabul since 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So we started to hear like communities saying like the erosions are getting worse, and coral reefs are destroyed because of the big waves and bleachings and things. So and this is something that we want to really work with the community. So this last year we designed the programs where we want to focus more on building climate literacy in Sampurna. So we started with Mabul Island because climate change is an important topic to be discussed. Although it's heavy, it's a jargon topic for local community, because the climate change term itself, they don't have definitions. They don't have the Malay word or the local word for it in Sampurna. So it's very interesting when we deliver climate literacy, but when we're trying to figure out how to tell them how to define climate change in local language. So it's kind of difficulties lah. But I guess it's great that we are very glad that SGP is supporting this project, and we are looking at 3 different strategies. One is to work on the water issue. So the local community has been facing saltwater intrusions to their groundwater. So basically, they don't have access to clean water supply in Mabul. some of the islands have to rely on resorts to get their clean water supply. Some they have to buy from mainland. So it's a very difficult uh, to explain. I mean, people are having difficulties with catching fish in their livelihood and families, but also they don't have access to clean water. Clean water is the most basic things that you should have. But in an island, remote islands like in Mabul, and also other islands in Sabah, these things are happening because of the saltwater intrusions, and this may because of so many other things. It's not only driven by climate change alone. So what we do is we try to work with the youth to monitor their water quality, at the same time to further understand the water issues. What is the factor that affecting their saltwater intrusion for Mabul? So one of the interesting finding is because Mabul is so popular for diving and tourism, so it's overdeveloped because we have a lot of resorts. There are also like a lot of tourists coming in before pandemic, so people are extracting and exploiting the water resources to the level where it don't recover. So because of the overdevelopments in Mabul, is also contribute to saltwater intrusions. So now we help them sample few of the groundwater wells, and most of it got like salt. And so we're trying to further understand how we can help them. But I hope that by end of this project, we can come up with recommendations that we can put forward to the local government and also other agencies to help them to have access to clean water supply in Mabul. And we're also working with the youth as well to address the coral degradation issues in Mabul. So Mabul is known for its coral reefs. People go there for diving. Also, the local community relies on it as a fishing resources. So we try to, because they said like coral is very important to them, and also coral is the coastal protector for their islands. And without it, the erosion would be, getting more severe. So they said we need to protect the corals. Okay, let them. So we try to, train some of these, I think 4 to 5 youth in diving and also in coral restoration, so that they know the difficulty in restoring corals. So instead of restoring coral, they should focus more on protecting, but we train them on how to do the coral restoration. So far we have planted more than 300 corals in this activity. What we want to do is to test whether planting coral is suitable for Mabul, because it requires a lot of investment in terms of manpower, financial, and things, and monitoring. So by end of this project, we want to come out with a suitability report, whether we want to continue restoring corals or we should focus more on other climate change adaptations activities or mitigation activities. But this is very interesting because we just recently monitored their planted corals, and some of them are grow very well. It started to see some fishes, some indicators in their rehab areas. So they're quite happy. Before this, they don't really plant corals. They only plant like vegetables and all these flowers. But when they see the corals grow, they feel, they have that, sense of ownership, sense of like, oh, that coral grows very well. I'm the one who planted that coral, friend. So it's like, we want this kind of, a sense of ownership, because we need, most of the local community that we work with, especially coastal community, the reasons why they don't protect their marine resources because they don't have the sense of ownership. They said, oh, these coral reefs belong to everybody. It's not my responsibility. What we want to try to change is that this coral reef is belong to you. You need to take care of it, because if you don't take care of it, then you'll left with nothing. So we also deliver a lot of series of training under this program as well. We work with more than 20 youth in the islands. Most of our core businesses is more like youth, because we believe youth have a lot of power, they have a lot of potentials, and they should be, the frontliners to do all of these things. So we deliver a lot of series of training. In storytelling, we try to train them to come up with the climate stories, so that they can tell the climate stories in a bigger audience. or the local government, so that the government can start looking into all these climate issues facing by the coastal communities. We also train them in other monitorings like beach profiling, seagrass monitoring, which is a very citizen science approach. And this is another capacity building training for them, so that they don't have to rely on scientists to tell what's happening in their waters. They can do at their own. So it's very interesting because they started to learn new knowledge, and they also enjoy the program at the same time. We are not only focusing at delivering talks, ceramah on leadership and things, but we also like building experiential training for them, so that it also all this knowledge that they gain from our program can be practiced on the real situations. And the recent issue, the recent problems that we face, there's a headline, there's a news where a big barge hit the coral reefs in Mabul, and it destroyed the reefs. So it's kind of like a very interesting issues, because the youth start to speak about it. Before this, they don't really care what's happening in the islands, but once after that, they start reporting this event. So we got it in public. I got it in press, and people are start talking about it. And now we are working with authorities to look how we can improve the situations, in terms of either improving the EIA, because before you start any development in sensitive areas, should have EIA, or other like monitorings on the ground to ensure that you are not destroying any marine resources that precious to us coastal community, or at least the EPIC process where free, prior, and informed consents are being implemented, so that the community are consulted, community are being informed what are the future projects that going to affect the marine resources, so that they are aware or they are involved in the process. So I guess that's pretty much of my sharing, and there's so many things that I would like to share, but I guess it's just like a brief of programs on climate actions that we do in Green Sampurna. With that, thank you. Back to you, Ashley.
Okay, thank you so much for your sharing, Azmin. I can hear that you're very, very passionate about what you do, and it's very good to hear that. But it's also sad to hear that, we don't appreciate our biodiversity as much as we should. Like the coral issue that happened in Mambo Island, which is why education and empowerment is so important, particularly to youths. All right, next up, we have Nabila Shahimi, a community youth and volunteerism officer with Ecoknights. Nabila is a passionate city girl with a love for nature, an environmental biology graduate from USM, University Science Malaysia. She's currently pursuing a master in sustainability science, and she has been actively involved in Project Ocean Awareness, Penang Green Council, Power Shift Malaysia, to name a few, and has conducted close to 100 composting workshops. So, if any of you are interested in composting, you know who to look for. So, all right, over to you, Nabila.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. Wow, putting the pressure on me already. By the way, can you hear me clearly? Is it okay? Is it
good? All good.
Great. FYI, I'm not the composting sifu. I have other sifus to look at actually. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to share my screen. And when I share my screen, I would like to actually thank the vocal team as well as Ashley for inviting myself and the rest of the speakers to give a talk and share about our work as well as how we do things at the grassroots level. So let me just share my screen over here. I hope this is the one. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. All good.
Great. All right. So thanks. So yes, my name is Nabila Shuaimi. I'm actually the Community Youth and Volunteerism Officer in Ecoknights. I've been working in Ecoknights for about 5 to 6 years, including my internship phase. So my job in Ecoknights usually involves me working on the ground, which is actually why I'm actually very glad that Azmin gave his sharing just now. He touched quite a number of points that is related to the work that I do in Ecoknights. So let's go forward a bit to what exactly is Ecoknights. I think for those who have been following Vocal, especially the vocalist members, you would know that Project Vocal is conducted by Ecoknights, an environmental NGO based in Taman Tun. We do a lot of projects ranging from community projects all the way up to CSRs as well as educational projects with our vision is inspiring sustainable living. Now, what I'm going to share after this is more about not just about the work that I do, but basically what I learned from the work that I do at the grassroots level. Before I joined Ecoknights, or perhaps in the beginning of my journey in Ecoknights, what I initially thought that I would be doing is saving the world, which is basically, I think most of us in here were thinking that when we start this journey, it's about saving the world. It's about science, because I'm an environmental biology graduate, and it's about knowledge, because I just graduated from an academic institution. So my nature is basically, that really nerdy kind of mentality or mindset. What others thought about me when I work in Ecoknights is just basically that stereotype image of hugging trees. However, I think I would say after a year of working in Ecoknights, involving myself in different kind of projects, this is what I really do. Yes, I think I help to save the world through creating changes, whether it's within myself or with my teammates, or even with the stakeholders and key actors that I work with. I actually learned that it's environmentalism, whether it's climate change or even sustainability, is not just about science. It's also about society and economy. If you look up for the 3 pillars of sustainability, you'll realize that there are environment, society, and economy. So that's what I learned in Ecoknights. And next thing that I learned that it's not about knowledge, it's about Ken. K stands for knowledge, E stands for experience, and N stands for networking. And then lastly is basically what I major in Ecoknights, which is community development and empowerment. Through my projects under community development and empowerment, basically I learned all this, the top 3 points above. And some of the, I would say one of the major projects that I helped to handle, which actually sort of like promoted me as, composting. Well, I do quite a lot of projects with communities, especially in composting. Now, why I feel that composting is important, I think on books and theories, we know that composting helps to reduce the climate change, the rate of the climate change. And perhaps composting, a lot of people would think that composting is more of a science thing, but actually really composting is very related to citizen science. Anybody can be a citizen scientist and can actually integrate composting into their lives to play their part or their role in climate action. So if you look at this, I'll share with you like 2 of the composting programs that I did. They're called Garbage to Garden, or stands for G2G. Basically, we do about 3 to 5 months project, 5-month project with communities. Sometimes we do in Selangor, sometimes we do in Klang Valley. There are other times we go all the way to Johor as well. And what we do is not only we provide them the bins or the facilities to do composting, we actually do more about training. And the training has a few components. It's not just theoretical, where we show them all the biological stuff, but we also need to bear in mind that these are communities, not many of them are from the science area. So in order for them to start composting, or to understand what climate change is and to relate composting to climate change, we have to go down to the ground and understand what exactly is their perspective. And once we understand them, that's when we actually get to utilize different kind of tools to work with them. So for example, there are some communities that I work with, especially in Johor. A lot of them are Malay speaking, and they are really awesome farmers. If you look at them, each of their houses, they have really nice kebun or farms. And that's where I know that these are supposed to be like my seafood, like my teachers in farming. It's just that they need to understand and relate how can composting not only help their farming, but how can they actually contribute to climate action through their daily practices. So when I understand that and I speak their language, it actually helps the community to further understand the science of climate change. If you go to them and tell them about climate change, in Malay we call it perubahan iklim, it sounds jargon, like what as been said, so some of them it would sound jargon to them. They might not understand. It's too technical terms. So the language is very important. I'm not talking about Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa English, but I'm also talking about community language. So that is what I managed to gain from doing projects with these communities. Now, the first chapter of this would be the gap in knowledge, understanding, and social economy, which I think I did probably talk about understanding, the different level of understanding between communities and science graduates like me. There's always a gap. Another one is actually about social economy. So when we go and share with communities and get them to do different kinds of projects such as composting or even proper waste management in climate action, many of them may not be able to relate. And I don't blame them because they have different social economic priorities. Perhaps environment or climate action is not their priority. They have other social economic pressures. How are they going to put food on the table? A lot of them are from B40 communities. They only would want to work and work and work, get money, feed their family, and survive the next day. To talk about environment, what more jargon terms like climate change is definitely not in their book yet. So that's when we need to dive down and really understand them, because when we talk about grassroots solutions, we are working with different families and different communities. And different families and communities means they are not the same at all. They've got different backgrounds, they've got different socio-economic status, they have all sort of different understanding and perspectives. So that means different key actors, different dynamics, different ways to work. If you read more or listen more to other talks, and even like perhaps my method and Azmi methods might be different because the communities that we work, they are different. And Azmin also mentioned about lack of local ownership. Now, imagine if you go to a community and you talk to them about something that is not within their knowledge sphere, they probably would not be, number one, interested. And secondly is with lack of interest, there's lack of local ownership. An example would be something like the rivers in Malaysia. There's a lot of people staying next to the river, but number one, they don't even realize that there's a river next to them, or they think it's just like a drain, a monsoon drain for them. And another thing is that they can't relate the river to their lives. So same goes for climate change and our lives. How do we actually bridge this gap between these kind of communities with the knowledge or with the climate change effects? So we need to actually understand, speak their language in order to bridge that gap. Now, in Ecoknights, we actually practice theory of change, whereby it consists of 4 levels. Number 1 is awareness, that's the first level. Second goes to participation. Third is action. And fourth in empowerment. I think all the 3 speakers may be very, very well versed with the first 3 level, whereby we go out there, we reach out to communities, we educate, we teach them to be aware of things, we give them a lot of trainings, we sort of like hold their hands as well in the beginning of the phase to make sure that they take action. But for me personally, and also for my other teammates in Ecoknights, empowerment is really difficult. It's challenging because of the lack of local ownership. So that is one of the challenges that we face whenever we want to do community engagement or increase community participation in climate action, right? Now, next would be more, second chapter means going down to the ground, which I've spoken quite a lot about it. But here I would like to perhaps emphasize on the last point, which is patience. Do not expect instant results. Now, when we work with communities or any individuals in climate action or any environmental actions, we need to bear in mind it involves a change in mindset. All right. So change in mindset means it requires a lot of time. So definitely you need to be patient to see the effects. Now, the third one is called hardware, software minus hardware. This is a bit jargon for some of you, but basically hardware means technology or facility. Software means policy and rules. Hardware means humans and shared values. I believe that whenever we do any grassroots actions with communities or any individuals from the general public, it's always important to find out what are the shared values of these people. It can be economy, it can be religion, cultural rights. Because once we hit that spot where we integrate shared values into these actions, we can actually help to culture the sense of belonging in that particular community in order to empower them. And this can actually be done through providing them informal education that, of course, needs to have experiential learning. I think there's also mentioning of citizen science and also science communication. I don't have much time. There's 1 more minute left. All right. So I'm just going to wrap it all up. Maybe you all can actually go and go to Ecoknights and look at a few projects that we've done, like Garbage to Garden, Kuala Lumpur Eco Film Fest, even Project Vocal. They actually incorporate these few values in informal education, experiential learning, science communication, science. And these are very important tools for us to ensure that we can integrate shared values to grow the sense of belonging among the communities. So this is just like an example of Kuala Lumpur Eco Film Fest. We always do it every year. Other than screening films, because we believe films is a very good educational tool to educate people and to enhance understanding, we also do all sorts of workshops, whether it's filmmaking workshops or community workshops. And it's not limited to just Ecoknights doing the workshops. We also invite other catalysts or other activists, the people who walk the talk, to run this, because they have the experience and the knowledge to really engage with our target audience to enable the shared values and also to enhance more understanding in climate action. So that's about all that I have. If you're curious about Ecoknights, do visit us on Instagram, our website, or if you would like to communicate with me, my email address is over there. So thank you very much. Over to you, Ashley.
Thank you for your very insightful sharing, Nabila. I particularly loved the equation that you came up with and what you said about shared values and a sense of belonging. Also, fun fact, I'm a composting newbie, so I think I would have definitely lots to learn from you, Nabila. Composting queen.
Come to me, we can talk to each other.
Sure. And yes, finally, we have Farid Alim, a youth development manager from Buku Jalanan Chalkit. Farid was an engineer for 2 years, a youth development manager, and an aspiring counselor now. He is currently pursuing his master's in guidance and counseling to help underprivileged children in all aspects, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So now, let's join me in welcoming Farid to the virtual stage.
Hi, hi everyone. Can you guys share my slides? First of all, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk more about Buku Jalanan Chalkit. Thank you so much, Nabila and Azmin, for sharing. Learned a lot today about composting, planting corals. So it's very different from me. So, okay, let me start. Okay. Hi, a very good afternoon. I'm Farid Abdul Alim. So I've been working with Buku Jalanan since late 2017. Yeah, 2017. I started volunteering with them, and then started working with them in 2018 until now. Yeah. Okay, so Buku Jalanan Chalkit, equitable education. Okay, next. So Buku Jalanan Chalkit believes that every child has the right to education, to play, to good healthcare, and sustainable livelihood. So about us, Buku Jalanan Chalkit is an organization that works to restore humanity and to reduce children poverty through nurturing humble, grateful, kind-hearted, resilient, empathic generation by using education as the main tool. So Buku Jalanan Chalkit is a non-profit organization that provides education opportunity to every child, provide safe space and children activity center, homeschooling center for the displaced children. Yeah. Next. So actually, we started in 2015. We started behind in the alley behind of Al-Qaria, if you guys know, in Chowkit. Yeah. So we started with, so we started with just 40 students. We had classes on Friday and Sunday. We started small. We started with just pushing a trolley with books, doing a small library, things like that. Yeah, then in 2018, we realized that some of them don't go to school because of their documentation, and some of them are stateless. So we open up the school. All right, next. The target impact. So is to break the cycle of poverty, to better social environment for the vulnerable children in childcare, providing education opportunity to stateless displaced children, and improving academic performance of BJCK children. So a lot of them are, so because of the stateless, they can't go to school. A lot of them will start working at a young age and doing nothing. So to prevent them from doing things like smoking or doing drugs, and so we started to do a school for them. Yeah. So to increase the literacy rate among the marginalized children in childcare by 90%, creating opportunities for marginalized children to be part of various activities and programs. And lastly is creating transformational change project that lets sustainable livelihood and economically and socially resilient children. Yeah. Next. Project and program structure. So under Buku Jalanan Chowkit, we have Sekolah Buku Jalanan Chowkit. So Sekolah Buku Jalanan Chowkit, we did for the school is for the stateless and undocumented children. So for now, 2021, we have 50 children, 5 teachers, meals for lunch. We cook them meals for lunch every day. Well, because of COVID, everything is online right now. So we provide them laptops, internet, and handphones. Yeah. For the activity, we do academic subject classes. So because they can't go to government school and exams, so we're trying to go to IGCSE exams. Yeah. And lastly, building literate community by building literate children. Yeah. Next. So this is our main project at first. So the extra classes on Friday and Sundays. So as in 2021, we have around 101 children. We have around 63 families with us. So before COVID, we have every Friday and Sunday classes. We cook for them, so volunteers will help. Also, their families, their mothers and fathers will help us too. So we'll do some math, English, homework, and indirectly creating interaction. So we usually ask the volunteers to talk with the kids, to make them comfortable, to make them, have a social interaction with other people outside of childcare. Now, building a literate community by building literate children. Next. So achievement. So we started like this, behind of the alley. So a lot of them, we have a lot of volunteers helped us throughout the years. Volunteers from a local university. So universities started to notice us and help sending volunteers and doing their project with us, helping us. Next. So this is our center right now. Yeah. You can go to Buku Jalanan Facebook. You can see a video that's called Dari Jalanan ke Bangunan. So it shows our, process, starting from the alley, pushing books. You can see our journey from there. Right, next. Yeah, there is some of my youth development project. So, one of the child right is the right to play. So in childcare, you don't have space to play. If there's space, it ain't free. So it's hard for them to have a safe space to play. So Bukjanan started to find fun and started to rent a place for the kids to play every weekend. We got some coaches that are willing to volunteer with us. That is from Nexus FC. Next. The coaches are also youth coaches. So after like 6 months of training, we got an invitation to enter a competition. So this is proof that if you give them the opportunity, they will show you something amazing. We got the first runner-up for under 14. Yeah, we played against like very big teams. Yeah. Next. Okay, next. Therefore, we created remote learning to not only educate students about the pandemic, but also help them reflect and share the experience throughout the pandemic. Okay, next. So education as a tool for coexistence and empowerment. So to prove that every children is a good human capital if they were given the proper and to equip themselves, to equip children with the right tools and skill sets so they can compete healthily, to integrate signal and marginalized children as valuable members of society. Next. So in 2021, we started to make a new module, Maker Academy. So a Maker curriculum that focus on hands-on lifelong skills around innovation, digital skills, and entrepreneurship with the students at Buku Jalan Ecoknights. Next. So the Maker Academy looks at 2 streams to provide students with meaningful and relevant skills in technology and entrepreneurship. So as you can see, we're gonna do some design and thinking using Raspberry Pi, programming, Arduino, and another stream is we're gonna teach them entrepreneurship through open source digital tools. Yeah. Next. These are some potential projects that we are trying to do, like a roof garden on top, trying to innovation to ensure added skill set, values to BJSK students and the community. Yeah, and digital marketing to improve existing business or promote new ones. Yeah. Next. These are some program outcomes, like digital portfolio, podcasts and videos, and trying to do final open exhibition, to show everyone the progress of with students. Yeah. Next. These are our potential opportunities, teaching real entrepreneurship opportunities, positive influence on the net, and transforming the way we teach. Yeah. Next. Achievements. Yeah. Next. So this is one of the biggest achievements. So the kids learner, we collaborate with Arus Academy, one of the NGOs. So they taught the kids Arduino. So the kids that's holding this medal is actually 9 years old. Yeah. So we compete in a MTDC competition that had around 200 schools, and Alhamdulillah we got second place. We got 2 silvers and 2 bronze. Yeah, that shows a lot. Okay, next. This is one of the competition too. We also got first runner for it. Next. So our highest achievement is that we managed to allow our children to have the hope that there is a better future ahead of them, courage and dignity. Next. This is just things we need. I think that's all. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Farid, for your presentation and for what you do with the underprivileged children. It is really heartwarming to hear what you are doing with them, empowering, giving them a second chance, basically. Okay, so now that the presentation part is over, we will be moving on to the next segment of our event, which is a panel discussion involving all our speakers. So I'm just going to post a warm-up question to everyone. So if you feel the question resonates with you, you can feel free to answer it. Okay, so the first question is, what is grassroots work? And why is it important to have people working at grassroots level in all fields? I guess for me, my understanding of grassroots is, you start from the ground up and you educate the local community, and then with collective action from the local level, you can somehow affect change at the local, regional, national, or even international level. So perhaps admin, you would like this question.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I think for Green Sempurna, for me personally, grassroots means you work on the local level, on the ground. For us, we mostly working with local community because we believe that the community should be the one who decides or involved in the decision making when it comes to marine resource protections, because most of the time, who decides on marine protections, on management, it will be someone from on the state levels or on the policy level. And when these are being rolled out or being implemented, it doesn't went anywhere because there's a lack of participations. And also, grassroots means you're working on the core of the issues. For us, it will be the awareness, like the TOC, that the term of change, the theory of change that Nabila said just now, the awareness, the participations, and they're eventually getting being empowered. Because for us, we also have the same theory of change. You won't protect something that you do not love, and you do not love something that you don't know. So we want them to know what's in their waters, and then they feel, love of these things. And eventually, when they love their corals, when they love their waters, they eventually protect it. They're being empowered to do the things. And eventually, when they are empowered, they can do on their own, and they eventually inspire other people, even the local governments, to tell that they can do it. Because most of the time, what we experience, people, they think that the local community are not interested. The local community won't be able to understand. The local community are difficult to work with. Or even the local community should not be in the decision-making processes because they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the capacity, or just because they are marginalized or stateless. Because, in Sempurna, there's a lot of stateless community, they just disregard them, and they are not as inclusive as, in other areas. So, these are the grassroots for us lah. Yeah, back to you, Ashley.
All right, thank you, admin. Perhaps Farid, you would like to add on to this question?
All right. So for education part, grassroots is the most basic thing that could be more important than teaching ABCs, and reading. Yeah. So it is important. So because everything starts small, everything big today started small, right? You just have to have consistent. You have to believe in what you're doing, believe in the process, and know what you're doing is good. Yeah. And working with the locals, it's just amazing. Yeah, that's from me.
All right, thank you. So I guess the takeaway message that I got from this question is that awareness and education are two very important things, and you have to let the locals decide on the decision making. All right, so moving on to the next question. Do you think scalable small movements can create big waves in the advocacy scene? For this question, I think I would like to pose it to Farid because I really like what you said about the buku jalanan, dari jalanan ke bangunan. So I think you made quite some progress with the buku jalanan there. So over to you, Farid.
So I do agree on this. Yeah, BJCK started from nothing, from the streets, from the back of the alley. We started just with pushing out the trolley with books, like a small library, teaching, reading with the kids. We just spread the carpets on the ground using study lights in the middle of the alley. So we started small. Yeah, and a lot of volunteers helped out. It was great. And then we noticed some of the kids can't go to school because of the documentation is also stateless. We started open up our own center, and also the center also had nothing. So we started small. So now we have our own kitchen, our own safe space. We have place for them to learn. We have a ping pong table. The kids can hang out. You know, so yeah, you just have to start small. Yeah, and now we have a lot of funds from a lot of companies, and we're trying to do connection with universities. So people are starting to realize about stateless. But yeah, they realize that we had some discussion with UIA, and they're trying to teach to enroll them. Yeah, through IGCSE papers because it's hard to use SPM. Yeah, so yeah, you need to start small. Yeah, and for the kids, you just give them the opportunity, and they're just gonna show you something amazing. Yeah, that's all for me.
All right, thank you, Farid. Nabila, would you have anything to add on to this question?
I think I would like to touch on one of the points that Farid just shared, which is connections. So I feel that, well, from my experience of working with different committees here and there, they really started small by just having compost bins outside their house or in their gardens. And you can see in a few years, they start to be connected to each other, not just through Ecoknights. But I think this, I mean, in Malaysia, it's just really small. We get to know each other really quick. When we hear, oh, this person is also doing gardening, or oh, this person is also having this composting area, everybody will just pick it up and connect and communicate with each other. So when everyone starts to connect the dots, it becomes something huge. For example, in neighborhoods in PJ or the ones that I've engaged with, or even in Johor, they didn't know each other at first. Not a lot of them know each other. But when they go into the program and they start networking each other, and then they build relationship with other neighborhoods in other districts, then they're like, hey, let's come up with something. And that shows the empowerment of the community, like how much they can already do on their own capacity, because this is all done when Ecoknights let go of their hands and they're on their own. And suddenly after 1 year, when I check back with them, they've been doing a lot of things. They even have their own recycling center at their neighborhood. So you can see, start small, but you start to grow big as long as you know how to connect the dots.
Very interesting sharing, Nabila. I like what you say about networking, connecting the dots. I think what we did there was also networking, right? I know that you like composting, so I'm networking with you. I want to learn from you as well.
I can DM you the tips.
I wish you could, come here and do workshops, because I feel like you don't have much over here in Sarawak. So it would be good, if you could come here and show us, empower here, the people here.
I'm looking forward to go there.
One day.
One day when it's over, when the pandemic is done.
Yes. All right. So the third question, how does youth play a part in advocacy work at the grassroots level? And, as youths, how can they best communicate with all levels of the community to gain public support on the social, economic, climate, and maybe environmental related issues? Nabila, seeing as you often work with youths in Ecoknights, I would like to hear your thoughts on this question.
All right. So how can youth play a part in advocacy work at grassroots level? Well, besides having an abundance of energy, actually everybody is energetic. But I would say that youth have a lot of capacity in different kind of skills. And I think at this age, we can, with the pandemic happening, a lot of physical engagement have been converted into digital engagement. From my observation, when I look at the youth, especially the younger interns in my team, they've got really like a number of digital skills with them, not just on social media, but the way they want to create communication material, how they want to convey their message to other people. They've got like a lot of things going on for them. And I would say that youth really have that capacity to utilize the skills that they have to channel their energy, their positive work, and also to help others at grassroots level. Other than that, if you remember, like what Farid mentioned about having volunteers coming over, you can see that they do a lot of networking whereby he encouraged them to talk to the kids. And by encouraging them to talk to the kids, not only are they building relationships. Now relationships is very important in grassroots levels. Not only are they building relationships, but they're also getting to learn about other people's lives and start to relate or connect the dots again. And that's what I think why youth, that's how I think youth play an important role at the grassroots level. Now, how can they best communicate? I think I've mentioned this in my talk. It's number one, always go to the community or whichever individual that you want to engage with and understand first. Don't go in with your ideas and pum pum, like blast everyone with the ideas. But it's very important to understand the situations and perspective of different key actors so that you can see the bigger picture. And secondly is always learn to speak their language, not the bahasa Melayu, bahasa English, but different community language, corporate language, children language. There's so many ways to communicate with people. So I think these two are really important for the youth who would like to communicate with all levels of society and get the public support in climate action.
Definitely. I can agree with you that youths have a lot of skills, they're more creative, because even in my organization, UNAM Youth, I work with youths. I find that they are very creative, especially when it comes to designing posters, things like that. I'm also a youth, but those younger generation, like they are like way more creative. The way their thinking is just wow.
Yes. I think it boils down to being open with each other's ideas. That's also very important. Yeah.
Very true. So if you can't accept criticism, it's not very good, because like you don't get to like work openly with people.
Yeah.
And yep. Admin, so what are your thoughts on this, since you also work with a lot of youths?
Yes, I do work with a lot of youth. I think I'm no longer in youth, but I still youth. But I guess I'm not really know. I don't really know how to really elaborate on how does youth can take part in grassroots advocacy, because we don't have to tell the youth. The youth actually, they are already creative. They can find a way on leading their own advocacy. In fact, nowadays we see a lot of younger people are making a lot of grassroots advocacy works. I see like most of my young friends are working with stateless community, working on livelihood, working with indigenous people. So you've always know how to find a way. That's why we call like they are very mobile. We can mobilize youth. So we don't have to worry about youth. But what we need to emphasize is what resources, what are the skills and tips that they really need to have before they start advocacy, grassroots advocacy. Like, Nabila have talked about the language, the communications, how they can communicate with the, all the stakeholders engagements. Networking is very important because if you know only one person in that area, then it will be difficult for your project, difficult for your advocacy, because advocacy means you work with various stakeholders, not only the local community, and even the local community, you cannot focus on one gender. You also have to focus on everybody, be it fishermen, the young people, the children, the women, the men. So these are sort of important things as well to consider. How to best communicate with all this grassroots community, I guess Nabila has already answered that. But for us, normally when we started this kind of project, like for instance, so Marble One, we already spent at least 5 years with the youth working on the marine environment programs every year. But only last year we started to decide on a long-term project with them, because you have to build the relationship, you have to build the trust, you have to really understand the complexity of the issues that you're trying to address. Because once you start embarking on this advocacy, then you're putting a lot of expectations, you're expecting a lot of things. And big expectations could be big disappointment. So that's why we in Green Sampurna, we always start small. We started small in Mabul back then. Only like every year we organize three events on marine environments. Every year since 2013 up to 2019. On 2019, we decided to embark a long-term relationship with the youth on these climate actions, because we know like, oh, we can handle big expectation, we can handle big disappointment. So yeah, I mean, that's building relationship, building trust, understanding the issues around revolving around the communities that you're working with, and you know their language. For us, most of our volunteers, for your information, Green Sampurna is a volunteer-based organization. Nobody is being paid under Green Sampurna unless our project coordinator per project basis. So it's very important to, have that understanding first before embarking on this advocacy. Speaking their language, because we speak Pajau, we speak Suluk, local language, and we also understand their interests. When you work with youth in Mabul, they are very talented singer, they are very talented musicians, they're trained by themselves. So somehow in your programs you need to like, oh, maybe we need to insert some performance by themselves, like, so that they feel like, this is not only about chorus, it's also about us. So when you communicate with the fishermen, let's not talk about conservations, because they don't care about conservations, but talk about fish, why they are interesting. So they'll say, oh, I didn't know about that. So yeah, so knowing their language is very important in communicating with them. Back to you, Ashley.
All right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for those insights. Maybe just a follow-up question to both Azneen and Nabila. How was it like working with the youths when you first started with them? How did they take it? Were they open to what you guys were doing, or were they like, what is this? How did they take it? Any of you can go first.
Okay, all right. I'm pretty sure the younger interns in my team are like listening to me. Okay. I would say, of course, well, I'm still in the youth category, by the way, but I would say because of the different experiences that we've exposed, I would say, yeah, like myself, I've already I have more exposure compared to the younger youths. And again, there can always be a gap between myself and the youth volunteers, whereby there are things that they understand and I don't understand, and it's vice versa. So it's always like what we said just now, try to be very open to each other's opinions. And secondly is that I think when we want to measure a person's capacity, we shouldn't be measuring based on our capacity. We should be measuring based on that particular individual's capacity. So, for example, if one of the young volunteer work with me and does not have enough exposure as much as mine, it's really unfair for me to sort of not to sort of demotivate that volunteer because of his own capacity. I actually have to understand from his perspective and think of ways of how do I actually get to empower this volunteer to grow even more within, like, according to what he wants and at his own comfortable pace. So that's the challenge that I always come upon because of the gap. So another thing is, of course, there'll be a culture shock, because for me, it's actually I'm the one who's having culture shock, because the Gen Zs, they are very good with all the TikTok and everything. So when they come to me with the communication material and they show me, hey, Nabila, can we use this for promotional material? I'm like, what is this? But I do, but again, with open-minded, being open-minded, when you look at it's again, yeah, you have to look at marketing strategies and you see like who exactly are our target audience. If these are the target audience and they tend to incline towards the communication material that they use, then by all means go on with the communication material. It not only makes them feel happy, but it also gives them that boost to feel that, okay, this is something that I can do. This is this is my power. I can actually use it to empower or to help educate people. So we'll go on with that. So yeah, I hope my younger interns don't look at me after this. They know it's quite difficult to work with me, but I do approve some of their materials.
I guess I can add more. I think working with youth, if I summarize this, it's like reading an endless, a book with an endless page of learning, with challenges, with opportunity. So all these, vibrant characters of youth. There's a youth with so much knowledge, and sometimes you work with various knowledge. You work with different level of knowledge in a group. Sometimes you have to try to balance that. And they have so many ideas. For me, I find it interesting to work with you, and because I work full time with Check Malaysia, we got like community project. It's a very difficult project, like all this technical stuff. So I always go back to Green Sempurna to spend some of my time to deliver project with the youth, because there I find inspirations, there I find laugh, because some of these like comic people in the in their character, they're very funny, but sometimes you also become a facilitator or enabler for these youth to develop further their capacity, because some of the youth that participating in our programs or even volunteering in Green Sempurna, they merely they sometimes they don't have the knowledge or capacity or experience like you. So basically you'll be the one who giving them the technical knowledge and stuff, like what Nabila said, when they come with marketing strategy or promotion strategy, somehow you're not very familiar with TikTok, but they're very familiar with TikTok and they find it a very effective way to promote. So sometimes you have to be open, although like it's not your generation's kind of thing. Back then we don't have TikTok, we don't even have WhatsApp and social media back then. We only have like, guess what, Twitter, all these like Friendster and things. But now like we have more social media and they're familiar, and sometimes they have fresh ideas. And also they have, some of the youth that we work with, they have local knowledge. So sometimes you have to respect that, because although like you have so many knowledge, you read a lot of papers, when you go to community, I know how to solve these things. I know how to, let's say I know how to do composting, but sometimes you have to listen to this local knowledge or traditional knowledge that they have, because sometimes very true. Because like last time we said, well, let's just go dive. For sure, when we go like shallow dive, like there'll be nothing, like the water akama and things. So some of the youth will tell us like, no, don't go dive when the water is shallow, because the current is very strong. It's like, no lah, I think when the shallow water, when it's like shallow, the reefs are okay to dive. And eventually like they are true, like the shallow the currents are very strong. So sometimes you have to listen to them, and very often like, they have sometimes they have the knowledge that you don't have, and this is a kind of like exchange program. So that's why I said like working with you is like reading a book, like endless like learning, opportunity, networking. Yeah. So yep. But I working with young people.
Never-ending knowledge exchange program for us.
Yeah. Although like sometimes like what? It's like
Yeah, but they just never cease to amaze all of us with all their ideas and everything. And it's really good to encourage them at their level, because when they come into the field, they're very high spirited. So let's encourage them to be that way and not give up all the time.
It also helps that they are constantly, buzzing with energy and ideas.
when I started working closely with the youth in Mabul, most of them, they have like TikToks, like they're taking videos, they're taking like songs and things. Okay, they said like there's a lot of like interesting things happening in TikTok. It's like, okay, I give it a go, but I'm not an active user lah. Yeah, back to you.
All right, interesting. Okay, like later you share with us your handle, Adsin. Okay, maybe perhaps next time, we can take some local environmental knowledge and then we can put it into TikTok. So, digital advocacy at its best, and we can reach more youths, empower them. All right, moving on. Next question. Do you think volunteerism is crucial in grassroots level work? I would like to hear from Farid. What are your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, okay. I'll talk about volunteers first. So volunteers, doing volunteering connects you with others, making new friends, and connects you with networking, increasing social relationship skills, boost self-confidence, and you get free experience learning about management. You can learn about their management, about the NGOs management. Yeah. And for the organization itself, organization needs help, as some organization are quite low in fund, mostly importantly manpower. Yeah, but overall, I think the most important thing is helping the organization with ideas. NGO like Bukujanan, the teams are all from volunteering. We are what we are today because of them, because of this amazing volunteer ideas. But I think sometimes volunteer themselves, they just don't realize that they're doing. They don't see their importance, how their small help gives big impact. Yeah.
Thank you, Farid. And Nabila, as a volunteerism officer, I would like to hear your thoughts on this question as well.
I would say yes, it's very crucial, and I do agree with what Farid said. It's about the experience that you gain from volunteering in all this grassroots level work. You gain the experience in different kinds of skills, whether it's project management, communication, or even engaging with different stakeholders or key actors. Another thing I would like to add is also, I think volunteerism, especially at this time, these tough times, it's somewhat more appreciated really, because not only you boost yourself with that positive feeling that, oh, I'm helping someone, but you're also giving a huge impact to other people's life, whether it's from a socio-economic perspective or it can be from an environmental perspective. But it does channel that positive vibe from the work of volunteerism. And that's the vibe that we need in order to enforce our efforts to either build a sense of belonging in communities or to even educate or spread awareness. That's the positive vibe that we need, rather than imagine if I go to someone and then I don't have all these volunteers with me and I just give a very dull, boring teaching about composting and I don't have any young volunteers next to me to sort of hype it up and be the facilitators or go around to the communities and communicate with them, do the monitoring. It's going to be really dull. It's not going to help with the impact of the composting program. So that's why volunteering is very important from different kinds of aspects, from the volunteer itself all the way to the person who received the benefit from that volunteer.
Thank you, both Nabila and Farid. So moving on, we will have our Q&A segment that will comment in a bit. And I would like to remind all the participants to send in the questions via the chat box, which will then be addressed by our speakers. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. All right, thank you so much for joining us for this session. We'll dive right into the questions. Okay, so the first question is, what did you wish you know before getting involved with all these youth programs or movements? Are there broad categories of things like knowledge or pathways or pros and cons? Maybe we'll start with Nabila first, if you're okay with answering this question.
Yep, all right. Can you hear me clearly? Is it okay?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, great. What I wish to know before I get involved. I would say actually more like experience, or I would say knowledge lah, or at least hearing the experience shared by other people like the seniors or whoever who's been involved. So I wish that we could have known that, and also, I think it's important as well. For example, in university, students go for internship programs, and internship programs is actually that a particular time for university students to be exposed to all sorts of youth programs. Actually, so if we can actually have a more comprehensive module whereby before the students go for their internship, perhaps they can have like a pre-internship sharing session where they all these youth speakers who have been in these programs to go there and give them a talk, at least just to share them, okay, what's the expectation? Talk about managing expectations lah here.
That would be so useful. Yes. Azvin, what do you think? What are your sentiments on this
I guess it will be
question?
similar lah. I guess I wish that I know the marine conservations at a very young age, at a very earlier, so that we able to communicate about the importance of conserving our marine biodiversity, and of course other skills and knowledge related to project management, project designs, because that will be like helpful, so that we won't design programs that people have been doing in the past and it doesn't provide a good outcome. So we could avoid that. For instance, wasting either resources or efforts in programs that doesn't provide the benefit or outcome that we want. So I guess it will be like something that I wish that I know before I start venturing into this kind of advocacy. Yeah, back to you, Ashley.
All right, thank you, Azmin. And yes, Farid, what are your thoughts?
Maybe for me it's a bit different because I was in engineering, then I went to volunteer, so I had zero knowledge. But I think the NGO itself plays the bigger role in keeping me there, helping me there, supporting me. I think the best thing is willing to learn anything in the future and to stay there. Yeah, that's all.
Right. Thank you, all the speakers. We will move on to the second question. Has the local authority used all these natural diversities to promote environmental harmony and prevent destruction of all these natural resources? Yeah, and then the second part is what percentage of the Sempurna locals are aware of this natural diversity? So this question is very close to heart, Azmin. So yeah, over to you, Azmin.
I won't provide like long explanations, but I would say in terms of government's effort promoting harmony when it comes to environment, I guess we can improve more on that, because most of the time we normally promote it for to use the resources, exploiting the resources. But in terms of conserving or promoting harmony between people and the environment, I think we need to improve on that. And I guess there's an efforts there. But I guess when we are in the high biodiversity area like Sempurna, we need to put more emphasis on the biodiversity, because the biodiversity is the livelihood of the people. So only if you take care of the biodiversity, then you are taking care of our people. In terms of percentage of young people aware about the environment, I guess when I started doing Sempurna, it's only few people. Like even in Sempurna, they don't even know like we have dolphins, we have turtles. So it's kind of like a very new knowledge to them. But nowadays, people are more aware, I guess, because we have technology, we have social medias, and we have been reaching out to more young people in schools and in coastal areas to talk about marine conservation. So I can't answer specifically on the percentage, but I guess we are having more young people aware about the marine environment for sure.
That's nice. Good to hear that. And yes, I definitely agree here that education is key. So that things like the Mabo Island incident doesn't happen again. All right. Next question. What education curriculum is your center providing, and why is childcare chosen to provide this noble idea? So this question is directed to Farid.
Right. Okay. So actually, we started with basic reading, basic writing, basic English, basic math, and things like that, because they were like kids around 15, 16 years old that never went to school, so they can't read, they can't, things like that. Yeah. So after a few years now, we started to do some extra curriculums like teaching them programming, Japanese, yeah, and actually we just talked about it. So we are trying to enroll the kids in IGCSE programs, exams. Yeah. So we are trying to follow IGCSE modules. Yeah, that's for the curriculum. So why Child Kid? So Buku Jalanan is actually a movement that claims public space. Yeah. So they have around 90 something, I think. So they have classes like poetry, book review. So when we went to Chowkit, it was a different scene. We have kids around there, so we can't do book review, poetry. So we have to change the narrative. Yeah, so we have to change it to education. Yeah, that's all.
I see. That's a very noble idea indeed, Farid. Thank you for what you do for the kids. We'll go on to the next question. In observing the current environmental conservation policies and targeting the community at large, do you think that the policies should be more specific? For example, in prioritizing the youth, and should changes be made to the policies if needed? I will direct this question to Nabila.
All right. Okay, tough question, but personally, in my opinion, I think that there are some conservation policies that should be prioritizing different groups of society, like the youth or even the indigenous community. Actually, it's good to have that inclusivity. To reach to that point, actually, it's very important for us, as in everyone in the general public. We feel that we need to be involved in the policy. We have to actually first understand what's the process of policy making and what needs to be done to highlight and let the policymakers know that, hey, we are here, we should be prioritized in this policy to be able to help you out in all these environmental actions or environmental conservation policy. So how to do that is actually more towards the youth. As if you're talking about the youth especially taking actions, even if, let's say, the policy didn't state our involvement, but if we feel that this is very relevant, this is what we should be doing, then by all means we can do so. We see a lot of people in Malaysia, a lot of the youth groups in Malaysia, the policies didn't really state their involvement, but they are walking the talk because they want to prove a point to say that we are here, use us, get us on board and get us involved. So that, of course, that's saying is that we need to accept the truth that it's very hard, or I would say it's very hard, but it's challenging and it takes time to change policies, to be honest. It takes quite a while to change policy. So a lot of patience is required, a lot of groundwork, like grassroots actions need to be done to create that change. So my advice is that, be patient and always believe in what we do in order to, one day, inshallah, we'll get into that. We'll make a change in the policy, but bear in mind, it's going to be challenging.
And that's why we youths are the leaders of tomorrow. We have to start taking action today so that one day, when we are when we have capabilities, we can do something to the policies.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you, Nabila. And I think I'll go for the final question, which is directed to all the panelists. So this question says that, okay, I am inspired by Farid, Azmin, and Nabila. My question is, what sparked you to pursue your purpose in what you are doing now? And how do you console yourself when times are really hard and you feel like losing hope or giving up? Maybe we can start with Azmin first.
Thank you, Ashley. I guess I don't know, but it sounds like cliche. When you do things like you like, even though like it's difficult, you still like keep doing whatever you like. I guess what sparked me to do this because first of all, I'm from Sampurna, and I first learned that we have very few young people interested in protecting our marine environment, despite that we are globally recognized of having this biodiversity. So it's so unfortunate to hear that. So I guess like it's my call, it's my responsibility to lead a group of people to to run the advocacy. So I guess that's kind of inspire me to continue what I'm doing. When you said like sometimes I think whatever we do there will be challenges, be it in different aspect in your advocacy or in your personal life. I guess we are adapt to face our challenges. And for me, like every time when it comes to marine conservation or youth empowerment, I always like have young people or my volunteers around me to talk about challenges and comfort each other and learn and get motivation from them. It's not only us motivating them but also getting the motivation from them as well. It's a good therapy for us to continue what we are what we love doing. Yeah. Back to you,
It's a
Ashley.
two-way thing lah. Good to hear that. Thank you, Admin. Perhaps you can listen from Farid. What sparked you to pursue your purpose? And how you console yourself?
Yeah, what sparked me, I'll say I fell in love with the kids. Yeah, made a connection. Yeah, then I saw that the kids really need someone to be there with them, to empower them, to care about them, and to do some advocacy for them. And what console you when times are really hard? So that will be also the kids, yeah, watching them laughing, smiling, and having a safe space to play. Yeah, everything is about the kids for me. Yeah.
Oh, so nice. All right, thank you, Farid. And now let's just hear from Nabila. What are your thoughts?
For me, what sparked, because since I work with many communities, I would say the uncle aunties, especially the ones that I teach climate change, all this biodiversity ecosystem to them. It's very nice to see all these uncles and aunties learning something new and applying it in their daily lives. And they go out there and also share each other while they membawang. And even up to even I have not seen them for about 3 years or 4 years already, but we are in WhatsApp groups and there's still activity going on whereby they post about composting and gardening and recycling. So it's very nice to see it happening. That's really sparked my interest and passion to continue work with the community. How I console myself, of course there are a fair share of really down moments. But I would say it boils down to my team members, from the director all the way to the volunteers. We kind of share the burden together. So when one person is down, semua orang pun down, and everyone just console each other or encourage each other. I also have my lecturers and my families to support me and console me. So that kept me going lah. Yeah.
I see. Go, composting queen.
After this, I might have calls of people ask me to teach them composting. Actually, you should call Asmin and Farid actually and ask them how can we help them also.
After this, we network again lah.
Working.
All right. Thank you, all the speakers. And continue inspiring more people in whatever you do in your own sectors. It has been a really insightful session. And thank you for sharing all your heartwarming stories. I really love hearing all of them. And I hope the audience has gained a lot from this session. So before we end, I'd just like to invite all the participants to fill out a survey form, which will be sent to your email later. And once again, thank you all the speakers for your very insightful sharing. And thank you to the audience for participating and asking a lot of thought-provoking questions. Don't forget to follow Project Vocal on our Instagram @project.vocal and Twitter for all the latest news and updates. And stay tuned as we have lots of upcoming programs in the future. And of course, thank you to the speakers, all the participants. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you all again.